Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is Miasma, and tonight I have another anime review. And seeing as though Halloween is coming up, I really wanted to talk about some creepy horror anime. And I found out that last season there was a pretty creepy show that people were talking about, and I'm really glad that I listened to those people and checked this show out because tonight we are talking about Happy Sugar Life. Now, given its title, you wouldn't think necessarily a scary show, and in truth, it's not scary all of the time. But this is a show that reminds me a lot of something like American Psycho, where it has a lot of commentary about how things on the surface are very very different than what lie beneath, and essentially, if you've never heard of this series before, it's only 12 episodes long, just aired last season, and it's basically about this high school girl named Sato, who essentially lives this kind of like a double life. She works in this maid cafe, and she's like this really cute girl, beloved by a lot of her employees and the patrons of the restaurant that she works at. And she used to kind of get around with the boys. Guys tend to like her. She's popular. She's cheery. She's upbeat. Seemingly, she'd have a perfect life, right? Well, not really, because she's fucking insane. So she has essentially kidnapped this really young girl named Shio, who I don't think they specify an age, but I'd say maybe 4 years old or something. And so she has possession of this young girl, unbeknownst to anybody else in the world. It's just her and this girl in this apartment, with mysterious, bloody trash bags in the corner of one of the rooms that Shio doesn't seem to know about, but Sato knows very well what's in those bags. And the whole story is sort of unraveling how they got to that situation and how Sato is going to keep her dark secret a secret, and she will go to any lengths to protect her relationship, her love of this young girl. And what the show really challenges is the concept of love, because almost every character in the show has a different way that they define love. And there's like a myriad of like different loves talked about here. There's like maternal, there's platonic, there's romantic, and all sort of like intertwined. And when you're out of your fucking mind, like the main character is, I think she has a tendency to mix all of these up, and she has a very difficult time figuring out what emotion she has, so she kind of has all of them at once, and then has a lot of anger. So, in my previous video, I talked about how we needed better horror anime that are more like slasher style. And this one has some good kills in it. I will give it that. It's one thing I really, really liked about it. It shows some gore, not like insane amounts of gore. You don't really have to worry if you're like squeamish here. It's only like a couple scenes here and there. But there is blood. There is killing. There is really creepy moments. I would say this is more of a horror along the lines of like just creepy moments rather than rather than jump scares, or rather than like sheer like gory films. A lot of it is like in its tone and how when the characters are speaking and stuff like that. And I gotta give a big credit to the sub voice actress for the main character, Sato here, because she did an incredible job of mixing like the whimsy and bubbly daily life of Sato with like the fucking insane girl that she really is. Yeah, I really thought that the story was interesting, and the characters are also very interesting. Now they vary on levels of how like I really like them. So like I guess we could talk about some of them here. First off, I guess the one we got to mention is this crazy bitch Sato, who, just look at her, like she's fucking nuts. Like, she looks like this whenever she feels like threatened, or her happy sugar life, as she describes it, is going to be threatened. Anything that ruins her potential tranquility with Shio makes her nuts, and she'll do anything to preserve that. But you get a lot of like backstory on her, especially towards the end of the show, and you find out. The show doesn't really make excuses for how she is, but you kind of find out why she views the world as she does. And she doesn't really perceive as what she's doing to be wrong. And which it was an interesting thing that we talked about. I actually watched this with my good friend, J-Chip from the J-Chip show. And I mentioned how she doesn't perceive what she's doing as wrong, so in her world it's not wrong. Like, she might have a problem with other people killing one another, but to her, she's doing it to fulfill her goal and fulfill her love. And she has a very fucked up belief of what love is, and her upbringing was because of that, but that's spoilerific territory, and I won't really get into that. Another character that I rather liked was Shoko, Shoko is the sort of like the best friend of Sato here. They work together in the maid cafe, and while they're friends, she doesn't know too much about Sato's life. Sato keeps her life very, very private, and even did so before she became a murderer, for reasons that, once again, they go on about later in the series. And she just has a genuine interest in her friend. It seemed like there might be a romantic interest there. I thought they were going to go sort of like a Yuri route with this, but they kind of went away from that later on. But yeah, she seems like a good character. Like, she cares about her friend. You don't get like a ton of like backstory on her, which I kind of wish maybe the series was a little longer. We could have known a little more about Shoko. But yeah, she was a pretty solid character. Another person that I really, really liked was Asahi. Asahi is the brother of the little girl that is kidnapped, and that is when I say the word kidnapped, like, it feels like the little girl is perfectly happy with this situation. By the way, she doesn't seem to remember her family from her previous life. She's really young and has gone through a lot of emotional trauma and has sort of blocked out a lot of her memories. And she has so many happy memories with Sato that she sort of has this Stockholm syndrome, where she also wants to live that happy sugar life. So Asahi is the brother who has, under circumstances, been separated from his little sister and is trying his hardest to find her. And you find out both of their backstories and how they got to be separated and how they got to be where they are. And talk about characters that are willing to do anything. On one end, you got Sato, who is willing to do anything to keep Shio, and then you have Asahi, who's willing to do anything he can to find her. And he's willing to, interrogate people, to threaten people, to torture people for information. I liked him as a character. Even though he will do those things, he's genuinely a good guy most of the time, which is another thing I think is really cool about the show, is that while everyone has potential to be good, everyone also has potential to be crazy and fucked up. Almost everybody does some crazy fucked up shit in the show, or they have like a weird thing about their personality, or they just blatantly miss an opportunity to be a good person. I thought that was cool. You don't see a lot of like flawed anime characters, I would say, and I use that term kind of lightly, I suppose, but everyone in the show is flawed in some way, and I really, really like that. But and I really like the journey that Asahi goes through to find his sister again. There is this other dude, but I wasn't even gonna put him. I didn't even want to Google image him, but there's another dude in the show who's this other fuckboy that they work with at the maid cafe, who's super pedo bear and is really interested in the little girl sexually. Like, he collects like these missing posters that the brother is putting up in town about her and stuff, and he just weirded me out. But I do gotta mention him because he plays a pretty important role in the series. Taiyo, I believe his name is. But he was just like a disgusting freaking character, and I wanted him to get the axe so bad. But I guess that's his purpose in the show, and it did a good job of that. The animation was pretty good. I heard a rumor on the internet that this was one of the first shows that the studio's done. If it is, then really good job. If I'm wrong about that, then, I guess that's that. But the OP song is awesome. The animation in the OP is also really good. If there's anything I disliked about how the show looked, was sometimes they do this weird like 3D effect with the doors and some of the other objects in the show, and it kind of looks like shit. I wish they would just stick to 2D, but I don't know. Maybe they're just trying to be innovative, I guess. Last thing I'll say that I really, really, really enjoyed, two things, is that it's definitely a unique experience. Like, I couldn't really think, there's not a lot of anime that are like this, so it really like stands out, and its characters really stand out, and a lot of the character beliefs that they express in the show, I don't think you're going to see in a whole lot of other shows. Just there's a lot of like cool dialogue between the characters about like what love is and how they perceive the world, and I don't think you would see that in a lot of shows, and I thought that was really, really interesting. Um, but yeah, so all of that is consistently good. It shows how people can crack under pressure, and feed impulses. Like, everybody can be shitty. Yeah, had some cool kills and stuff like that. Now let's get to what I kind of didn't like about this. And the big one that I feel like probably pushes a lot of people away from this is the weird pedo bear vibes. Because you get a lot of that in this show. You get a lot of not only Tayo, the guy who's really attracted to the little girl for whatever reason. You also have the main relationship here, which is the love between Shio and Sato. In their weird, fucked up family situation that they have. And like, I would be fine with it if it was more like maternal, if it was more like she just cared after her and that was kind of it, which is how I thought it was going to be. But like, the show is OP, and a lot of scenes in the show push this sort of like romantic relationship kind of thing, and it's kind of uncomfortable for me. There's a lot of like wedding vows that they keep saying to each other, and a lot of like wedding imagery that the two of them would get married and they love each other, so let's marry each other. And I get it, maybe they're not actually sexually attracted to each other, and I think by the end it's not like that, but it pushes that like heavily, and I don't know if that was just to sell to a certain crowd, but I really didn't like it. The show does have a good ending. I don't think I mentioned this in the pros, but it does have a very solid ending. The manga is ongoing, so kudos to the staff for having a very good ending for an anime that has an ongoing manga. However, there is some predictability to this. Some of the characters just do dumb stuff. But I guess maybe it's just a horror thing. Like, some of them just do like predictable things. Some of them could be easily out of situations that they're in, yet they don't, for some reason, see what they should do to get out of that situation. Like, they just sort of walk into death. Yeah, it was mostly like the pedo bear vibes, if anything, that I really disliked. There's also like a lack of explanation over some things that sort of happened toward the end. Like, it felt a little bit rushed. Some things that happened with the side characters in particular, I wasn't too clear on like why they occurred the way they did. And but yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed Happy Sugar Life. Is it the greatest horror anime of all time? Is it the savior of horror anime? I don't think so. I think it's a good example. I think it's unique. I think it's special in the genre. However, it's also like, I also would say that like being the best horror anime is not necessarily like a gold medal right now. Like, that's not like, and even I would say I still enjoyed like stuff like Shiki a little bit more than this, but maybe that's just me. But I highly recommend. I would say I recommend streaming the show, which you can do on Amazon Prime if you're an Amazon Prime member. Of course, you could just pirate the hell out of it if you wanted to, but I like to tell you guys about that option. So it is on Amazon if you were looking to stream it legally. I don't know about any upcoming Blu-ray or DVD releases, but I'm sure those will be coming soon. I also don't know if this has been dubbed yet. I watched it in sub. Like I said, the voice actresses did a really good job here. But yeah, I definitely recommend that you guys check out the show. If you have seen Happy Sugar Life, let me know what you thought about it down below. Try to avoid spoilers for people. Um, and tell me, like, who did you think was the most interesting character in the show? Because honestly, like, I can't really even talk about my answer without going into like spoiler territory. But I think all the characters that I talked about, besides the pedo bear kid, sort of have various levels of intrigue to them, and I really really like that about this show. I like shows where I'm invested in the characters, and I really was in this series. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. I have a Patreon. If you like what I do here, please consider donating. I have you can get Discord access, and you can even recommend me manga or anime to watch and talk about on this channel. Big thanks to Nia-chan for her kind donation this month. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a happy sugar life. And my name is Miasma, and I'll see you guys next time.